And good morning, and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty this morning. Of course, my Extreme decided to completely go out right before I was getting started. So, for those of you that are normally seeing me used to seeing me on X this morning, I've had to remove the stream, save the changes, and having to do this whole thing. So I'm not sure if I have to drop and come back. I don't know. It's weird. It's technology. So for those of you that usually see me on X, you may have to go over to YouTube or Facebook. But again, I'm trying to work on the technical difficulties while having the show. So if you see me looking down a lot and clicking buttons, that's what we're doing because this is what we do in this show. Sometimes, things go off the rails, but we have to keep moving and forging forward. So this morning, I did want to start out our show with our Kids Corner that we have. And for our little ones that are watching this morning, we're going to talk about forgiveness. So let's check that out.
Just a kid in school. He always had the newest toys and the coolest clothes, but today, something went wrong. During recess, Tom accidentally knocked Brad's new basketball into a puddle. Brad was furious. Tom said sorry, but Brad refused to forgive him. "You ruined my basketball," Brad yelled, pushing Tom away. Brad couldn't let it go. He kept thinking about how unfair it was, but his anger made him feel worse. Later, Brad saw Tom playing with others, laughing and having fun. That's when he realized, was it really worth staying mad? Brad took a deep breath and walked over to Tom. "I'm sorry I got so mad. Do you want to play?" Tom smiled, and just like that, everything was okay again. Sometimes forgiving someone doesn't just help them, it helps us too. Forgiving others makes room for more happiness, friendship, and fun.
Sorry, I muted myself so you guys couldn't hear me clicking. But I wanted to say, a lot of times forgiveness isn't necessarily for the other person. It's for us, right? It is for us to be the bigger person and forgive. And you know, a lot of times we don't really see that part of it. But somebody actually, I want to say our pastor, he said it best, when you're not forgiving, you're giving power to the other person to have to keep a hold on you, right? For whatever it is that's going on. And a lot of times, the person that maybe offended you, that you haven't forgiven, they're really not thinking about what happened. Sometimes they're not even aware that they've offended you. And nobody really thinks about that part. They're just like, oh, you were offended? You know what I mean? Like, no, they really don't. They really, truly do not have any idea that they've done anything wrong. But when you take that step forward to forgive, that's where the freedom comes in. That is definitely where the freedom comes in. So again, I'm just trying to work through my little technical difficulties to add the go live. Oh my goodness, it's having me go through this whole reconnect thing. I don't know. I honestly, I think this is a StreamYard thing that's going on this morning because sometimes that happens. This has happened to me before where I was in the middle of a show. It wasn't funny, but I was in the middle of a show and I had to restart my whole show. And I thought, oh no, everything is lost. But luckily, luckily, um, I was able to get everything taken care of, and it's Cloudflare. So this actually has nothing to do with me. I didn't do this to myself. Yay. Yeah, StreamYard's lost connection to my account, which is very strange. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we will get into some more of the news on this Tell It All Tuesday. So thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News, and we'll see you on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bites can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments, so it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source, because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
Okay, and good morning. This is me, you guys. This is just wild. Okay. Just slightly wild. For any of my regular viewers on X, for some reason, Cloudflare is having an issue with StreamYard and X, and it's just not working. So we're doing Facebook and we're doing YouTube this morning for Tell It All Tuesday. And I will actually, it's kind of not funny, but I'll be shortening the stream today anyway because I have an appointment. But what I will do is the best that I can to bring you Tell It All Tuesday. So we did our child's corner. And so let's definitely go through our bod for God. Let me share my screen. Like I'm telling y'all, everything is just falling apart on this end. It's just wild. It's, and whenever you're trying to do something positive, things happen to get you frustrated, to just kind of throw you off. But you know what? You just keep on pushing, keep on pressing, and everything will work out. So, oh, good morning, Spud. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News from YouTube. Appreciate you. So, with that, we're going through how to honor God with our body. And God, please guard our thoughts with our mind. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So, I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, help me to listen for your voice with my ears. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs and help me honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect my feet as I walk in your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. So I hope that you guys were able to get a lot out of that this morning as we are here. And again, I do apologize to those that are trying to join us on X. For some reason, the Cloudflare, it's not connecting. It's asking me to reconnect the destination. I'm gonna keep trying. Look, I'm trying right now as we're speaking. I'm not sure what happened. Technology is what it is, and there are just different times when, hey, it just it kicks out, it does what it wants to do, but now it's back. Yay! Technology is working again. So, for those of you joining us on X and Facebook and YouTube, thank you for rolling with me through the punches of technology and its ups and downs. Definitely appreciate you. So, one of the first, I want to say, articles we're going to get into is we're going to get into Chicago public schools. I came across this article, and if you guys are wondering why I'm so focused on Chicago, it's because I do have a candidate that will be running for mayor. Now, this candidate is running in a bipartisan manner, right? So I should say nonpartisan. They're running nonpartisan, but I definitely want to give them the support from the Redemption Party, right? Because they definitely want to stay more independent, right? No, just no a Democrat or Republican, just strictly independent. So let's definitely check out this news article from the, I want to say maybe the local news there in Chicago.
Chicago public school system. Among the findings, employees at the cash-strapped district spent millions on trips to Las Vegas and even overseas. What is up with this? Mike Tobin is live there in the Windy City. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Dana. The Inspector General took a look at the travel expenses of teachers and principals in the Chicago public school systems and concluded that when the bank accounts were fat with COVID money, the staff ran wild. As you mentioned, trips to Egypt, Finland, Hawaiian resorts, even went on a safari, and there was no oversight to stop them. The amount spent on travel in 2021 was $300,000. It jumped up in 2022 to $3.4 million, doubled in 2023, and kept getting bigger in 2024. The report concludes that more scrutiny was put to whether the expense paperwork was done correctly than whether the expenses were excessive. As a result, more than 90% of the traveling employees went over the allowable limits. Oftentimes, lodging and airfare was double the allowable rate. One of the reasons the trips were not rejected is that they were not asking for approval. Of 15 international trips noted by the Inspector General, 12 were never submitted for approval. And then we start seeing wildlife trips, balloon rides, staff staying extra days for personal reasons, and this in a school district that claims a $700 million budget hole.
We do need more special ed teachers, but if you can think about the fact that $7.7 million in wasted taxpayer money for balloon rides and looking at giraffes and elephants could have gone to hiring 100 of those special ed teachers, these are the questions that we need to be asking.
Upon release of the Inspector General's report, Chicago Public Schools froze all overnight travel with this statement. This measure reflects our continued commitment to responsible financial stewardship and to prioritizing resources that directly support classrooms and students. As far as performance, less than half of 3rd to 8th graders are reading at grade level. Less than a quarter are proficient in math. Dana?
Mike, it sounds like there might be more of this where that came from, unfortunately. Thank you.
What a story.
And that's the sad part. I think that is the most disparaging part about this. It's like our children can't read or write and you're taking trips. What's going on? You're wasting all of this money, but our kids can't read. They stopped handwriting 20 years ago. They stopped that whole thing. But we keep raising the property taxes. I haven't even gotten into that story, but apparently they've raised the property taxes again in Chicago, where they said they wouldn't raise the property taxes. But our babies can't read and write. And yet these teachers are taking trips. And I don't really fault the teachers because they're not responsible for the budgets. This actually goes back to the superintendent. Doesn't even go to the school board, superintendent, because you have a superintendent to manage the budget and to ensure that the money is spent properly. So this rolls up to the top. And this is not probably not just happening in Chicago. It's probably happening in other places as well. I know in Indiana and South Bend in particular, they lost a substantial amount of money and had no answer for it. None. Just kind of shrugged their shoulders and said, well, we don't know what happened to the money. But the babies suffer behind adults not doing what they're supposed to do. Sad, sad, sad. We have a lot to pray for. So, not to pick on Chicago, but I'm gonna pick on them. Um, I'm going to play this next video. Now, this is actually a video of a meeting that happened in Chicago. I'm not sure when the meeting occurred, but the question was about investments, right? I guess each city has one. This is stuff I'm still learning, but they have it where the city can invest to get a rate of return back on the investment. I'm like, okay. Well, the person overseeing this investment has a problem with investing in America. Yeah, you heard me. And they have a banter back and forth, which is very fascinating. So let's check this out.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. Good afternoon, Madam Treasurer, to you and to your office. I was upstairs and I thought my ears deceived me. Did you just say you're going to disinvest from the United States?
United States Treasury is correct.
Are we not an American city?
We are.
Is not our oath to the United States? Yes?
You're asking me?
Yes. Do we not take an oath?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask a question. That's the question?
If you wish to be confrontational about what you just said, I'm trying to make sure I understand why an American city, which 53 members of its elected body take an oath to the United States Constitution to support, defend, that is our values. And to say we're not going to invest in our values, saying that we no longer as a city support the United States of America?
So I actually.
Is that something that you have the unilateral action to do, or is that something that city council can actually direct you so that if you are going to go down this path, we can direct you to reinvest our tax dollars in where it's most in the best interest of our taxpayers?
So I actually believe that not investing in the authoritarian regime of Donald Trump is investing in the value of the residents of Chicago.
Okay. This is where I'm like, what is wrong with people? Like, he's not a forever human being. Okay. He is not the United States of America. It says we the people. It does not say Donald Trump on the Constitution. I need people to calm down. But this shows the depravity. And this is my opinion. It truly shows the depravity of some people's mental state. And these are people that are serving in a capacity to make changes. What is wrong with you? That's hatred at another level, because nobody cares about your feelings. Your feelings are not supposed to be carried out in this job. Does everybody support that opinion is the question. And not everybody does. But let's finish listening.
So I happen to disagree.
So the United States of America, which has duly elected representatives in both the House, the Senate, and the presidency, regardless who is president, who has confirmed members of the cabinet, including the Secretary of the Treasury, those are all duly elected and confirmed individuals, correct?
It's a bold statement, isn't it?
Well,
And we need to be bold.
Actually, I think it's a very dangerous and reckless statement, to be perfectly honest with you,
really
Madam
not
Treasurer,
reckless.
because I believe that your goal is to manage our investments in things that actually produce money. Does the Treasury investments produce money for our investments?
There are many instruments that
Do
produce
they,
money.
does that produce profits and for our investments?
The same as corporate bonds, the same as money market accounts, the same as asset-backed securities. There are many instruments that produce a rate of return. And just as this year,
As
we're
guaranteed as the Treasury's
there are
investments?
many competitive instruments.
But,
Absolutely.
But the Treasury's instruments are guaranteed, correct?
There are many instruments.
Are the Treasury's
I'm
instruments guaranteed?
answering the question.
But
Alderman.
you're referring to many. I'm asking about one in particular.
And
Are
we're
the
going
Treasury-
to invest in others that will provide a competitive rate of return. Alderman Lopez.
But to my question, are the Treasury's returns guaranteed?
To your question, we will continue to invest in securities that offer a competitive return, and we will not compromise the safety of the assets, the liquidity of the assets, or the rate of return. So I'm glad that you asked that question. We will invest in the value of the residents of Chicago. And Chicagoans do not want us to bankroll the regime, the authoritarian regime of Donald Trump, where he has waged a war on our city.
Okay.
The agents in this city have pepper sprayed a
Does that mean-
one-year-old
so wait,
child.
Does that mean that?
Okay, why are you bringing situations that have nothing to do with the conversation? Still hasn't answered the question. The question's pending. The question is, do American treasuries, are they guaranteed? Right? That's all he's asking. And here she goes on this tangent. It's like, ma'am, these are your personal feelings that have nothing to do with your job. See, it's individuals like this that shouldn't be in this position. Period. That's my opinion. And good morning, Dr. C. She says America is more than DJT. Absolutely. And she says, greetings, founder. Greetings to you too. And super Evan Butler, I'm not sure about your comment. Yeah, you have to explain your comment because I'm not going to read that to my audience. But yeah, let's continue.
Back to
Thank you. Can we save the campaign
back
speech
and
for
forth
later?
on this particular item
Thank you, Madam
is
Chair.
not related to the budget discussion we are having right now.
She brought it up. So why isn't it related?
Well, you've had your discussion
Okay.
about it, and you've asked your
Okay.
questions. We know your point of view.
So then-
she's answered. We know her point of view. So can we go back to the questions that?
The question is pending. She didn't answer it. He asked if the treasuries were guaranteed. That's all he wanted to know.
That we have for her
Does that mean
on
we
her
were-
2026
So
budget.
does that mean that the previous investments for the previous administration that allowed 15 million people to manipulate asylum was our values when you were making those investments?
What did you just ask?
Can
No, I
can
didn't
we-
hear you.
No. Let's go to the questions on the budget.
How many of your positions have been offloaded to other into other enterprise funds?
We would need to get that through the chair
Why?
because we do.
No, you don't. I didn't ask for it through the chair. It's in the budget. How many of your positions have transferred from your office to enterprise funds this year?
So if you know I don't know that answer. That's why I
Okay.
just said we need to put it through the chair.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
All right.
Thank you, Alderman Lopez.
Yeah. Chicago is just a strange brew. There's been so much criminal activity with the city of Chicago. Obviously, they made a Broadway production about it called Chicago. In Cook County in particular. Sad. I'm really hoping that alderman in particular, that he gets reelected. It looks like he's really trying to do a better job for the city and getting some exposure in there. I'm going to try to track him down, see if I can get him on the show, just to ask him questions about his position and really where he stands with Chicago, because it's troubling what is going on there. But something that I wanted to look up, and it was kind of to this question, because he was like, okay, if you're gonna bring up how you don't want to deal with how should I say Donald Trump and his authoritarian regime, okay, well then let's talk about how many illegal people have been here, right, in the city of Chicago. And that brought me to this question, really looking at 287G. Now, 287G is where ICE works with states. And I had a question. I said, are some states intentionally avoiding 287G and working with ICE? Yes. Several states are intentionally avoiding participation in the 287G program, which allows local law enforcement to act as a de facto ICE agents for immigration enforcement. This avoidance often stems from sanctuary policies, state laws restricting cooperation with federal immigration authorities, concerns over racial profiling, community trust erosion, and high implementation cost, right? So as of mid-2025, ICE has active 287G agreements with agencies in 40 states, leaving 10 states without any such partnerships. These non-participating states include California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, New Jersey, Oregon, and Washington, among others. And they gave me a breakdown. So some of the key reasons for the avoidance is sanctuary laws and state bans. Many of these states have enacted legislation explicitly prohibiting or limiting local agencies from entering 287G agreements. Now, just understand, they do not have to participate. They can choose to not. Okay, I just want everybody to understand that up front. 287G is not a requirement, it's an ask. They can either work with ICE under the 287G agreement or they can choose not to, right? So they're not doing anything wrong, not working with under 287G. So I just want people to understand that these states do have the freedom to not do that. Now, California, Illinois, New Jersey, Connecticut have sanctuary policies that bar local jurisdictions from signing these agreements. So here's the deal. Let's say you're in Illinois, in the state, and your particular city outside of Chicago, you could be outside of Cook County, you want to work with ICE. Your governor has said, we don't want any of our police working with ICE. So you kind of have to follow what your mayor is telling, you know what I'm saying? It's like the governor, the mayor, and then the city officials. They're kind of following down the chain. Okay. So Oregon and Washington restrict local cooperation with ICE through state laws that prioritize community policing over immigration enforcement. Colorado passed a law in 2024 preventing local involvement in immigration detention and has upheld court rulings against honoring ICE detainers solely for immigration reasons, right? Public and legislative opposition. In Delaware, a city, Camden, initially approved a 287G agreement, but withdrew it due to community backlash over fears of racial profiling and family separations. This cracks me up with this racial profiling thing. Stop that. You decided to make people of Hispanic, Latino descent the face of ICE. That's your fault. Media, that's your fault. Congress, that's your fault. Because we have more people here illegally than just people that are here from South America. We have people from London. We have people from, from Italy, China, Africa, all over the world that are here illegally. Okay. So it's not just isolated, but see, they can hide easier, but they can't hide from deportation orders. They can't hide from those. But the only ones that they really show on camera mostly are people of Latin descent. So it seems like it's just people that are Latino and Hispanic, and that's not true. It just simply is not true. So resources and effectiveness concerns. Studies and reports highlight that 287G programs are costly, right? And ineffective at reducing crime, as they divert local resources from core policy duties. Immigrant rights groups like the ACLU and American Immigration Council argue the program leads to civil rights violations and reduced reporting of crimes by fearful communities. First of all, they don't have civil rights here. I don't know why people keep giving illegals rights. And I've even seen interviews with Jasmine Crockett. She was like, as soon as you step on the soil, we have a duty to protect you. No, we don't, because you're not under our jurisdiction, period. You belong to someone else. That's why we require people to have visas when they come here. This is why we require them to come through the proper ports of entry when they come here, right? So if we need to send somebody back to their country of origin, if they do something wrong here, we know exactly where to send them. But see, you want all this illegal immigration, so it does muddy the waters, and then you can, well, they're residents, well, no, they're not. They're criminals, and you're supporting criminal behavior. Just by the way, okay? So here's the states with no 287 agreements as of August. So we mentioned California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, New Jersey, Oregon, and Washington. So, in contrast, states like Texas and Florida moderate or heavily incentivize 287 participation through anti sanctuary laws, leading to hundreds of agreements there alone. This divide reflects broader partisan tensions with avoiding 287G, often framed as a deliberate choice to foster safer, more inclusive communities rather than aiding federal deportation efforts. For the latest ICE data, check their 287G page, as agreements can shift with local elections or lawsuits. It's insane to me that we actually have people in positions of authority that are siding with criminal behavior. You need to know who these people are. It's really sad. So I say, could creating a sanctuary city be seen as creating immigration law, right? Which is only specific to Congress. So Congress can only enact immigration law. Like within our Constitution, it falls back to them. They can only change immigration law, and that's under the Naturalization Act, right? That's it. State can't just make it up, but they've been allowed to, and they've been doing it for decades. So yes, creating or maintaining a sanctuary city or state policy can absolutely be challenged. So if it can be challenged, like, what's up, Attorney General? Pam Bondi, I know you're busy, but you have other people working under you. Somebody needs to take this on and get it done. Seriously, this is ridiculous. People should have been in jail. March, people should have been in jail. Governors and mayors outwardly violating Title 8, Section 1324, period. And has been challenged, right, on the grounds that it effectively creates or nullifies federal immigration law, a power reserved exclusively to Congress under the Constitution's Supremacy Clause and the federal government's plenary power over immigration, right? So it's breaking down. Here's how legal immigrant arguments play out on both sides. The real world example and outcomes as of late 2025. So the Supremacy Clause and preemption. Critics, Donald Trump, 1.0, 2.0, Texas, several red state AGs argue that when a city or state affirmatively prohibits its officers from honoring ICE detainers, sharing release information, or entering 287G agreements, it is obstructing the enforcement of federal immigration law. And it can be seen that way, but like I just said before, they do not have to enter in those agreements with ICE. But what that creates is the chaos that we see. So when these people are detained, let's say they were detained for DUI, let's just say, and this particular person that got arrested for a DUI, they also have deportation removal orders, and they decide to release this person, right? They let them back out on the street. They don't hold them. They don't call ICE, say, hey, we have this person. They have deportation orders. Once you come, they protect that person, send them back home to wherever they're going. ICE then has to find that individual in the community. This is why you see a lot of people blowing whistles and trying to trap ICE in the chaos. This is why you see the chaos, because they don't want to have to hold those people and have them deported. And you would think, why? Because see, during the last I'll say 5 years, right? In 2021, we'll just say, 2021, 4 years. Between 2021 and 2024, people were getting money for people being here illegally. They were getting resources for these people to give them aid and comfort. Now, does that fall under treason? It absolutely does. But somebody would have to actually come forward and say, okay, these people were involved in treason. This is what we saw them do. That's how treason works. It's very, how should I say, it's not very loose, but you have to have the direct person saying, this person committed treason. This is how they did it. I'm going to actually go through the steps and tell you and present the case for treason. Somebody actually has to do that. Nobody does it. Nobody does it because they don't want to be responsible for actually charging forth. So I can say, yes, allegedly there were acts of treason going on, but unless I actually witnessed it, even though we were on the receiving end of it, we would have to witness the mechanics of it. Who put the paperwork forward? Who put the memo forward? Who gave the direction for it? Right? Who said, carry these things out? You would actually have to have all those pieces in order to get treason. This is why we don't see it. We say people have committed treasonous acts, but you never really see anybody go to prison or have any of the consequences, I should say, of treason. Is what it is. We can do better. And Mark from the Soil, thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News and reposting the stream. Now, the Supreme Court has never directly ruled that sanctuary policies are preempted, but in cases like Arizona versus United States in 2012, it struck down parts of Arizona's SB 1070 because the state was trying to create its own immigration enforcement scheme. Opponents flip that logic. Refusing to enforce federal law is just as much an intrusion into a federal field as adding new enforcement. So you cannot break the law because, see, each state has the Constitution. It can give you more than the law of protection, but it cannot give you less. And it cannot rewrite laws that aren't afforded to them, which means they cannot just unilaterally create immigration laws at the state level. It's not their job. It's not their duty. Even at the state House and Senate legislature, it only belongs to the federal House and Senate, not state. They cannot just, unilaterally just rewrite the laws. They can't do it. So if you guys want to see this, get more into it, let me know. You can email me at unfilteredvisionnews@gmail.com, and I will send you the link to this research I did with Grok, or I will definitely repost it later on. And just PSA, I will be shortening the stream this morning because I've got an appointment. Yeah, life goes on. I'm a real human being. I actually do stuff. So the other piece that I wanted to look at on this Tell It All Tuesday was wage stagnation, because this is something my husband and we talk about a lot, and it's been really harmful for people. And what people don't realize is that wage stagnation has been going on since the 70s. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, our wages stopped growing in maybe the 90s. Yeah, 1973 is when it started. It carried through the 90s. But people have not been able to keep up with the pace of the actual economy. So it always creates inflation, right? For everybody. Because if your wages can't keep up, it's just going to be automatic inflation and just insult to injury. So gave me a timeline. It says wage stagnation in the United States refers to a period when real wages, right, adjusted for inflation, for most workers failed to grow significantly despite overall economic productivity increases. This phenomenon is widely dated into the early 1970s as a starting point. Specifically, many analysis pinpoint 1973 as a key year, marking the beginning of a divergence between worker productivity and pay, coinciding with events like the oil shock and a broader productivity slowdown. that lasted until the mid 1990s. So from 1973 to the early 1990s, average real wages actually declined or remained flat for production and non-supervisory workers, with only about zero point 0.7 cumulative growth over that half century when measured from 1973. So another common benchmark is 1979, often used because it aligns with the start of reliable data series on hourly wages, right? So from 79 to 2013, median hourly wages rose by just 6%, less than 0.2% annually. And for the bottom 90%, right, of earners, there were extended periods of near zero growth, interrupted only by brief spurts in tight labor markets like that in the late 1990s. So in the 80s and 90s, saw a long slide in real wages with inconsistent growth afterwards. A secondary, shorter stagnation occurred roughly from 2003 to 2015, influenced by the China shock, right? Increased imports from China and the Great Recession from median wages flattened more than average wages during this time. So that always, it's really interesting. So we started buying more from China. Okay. So we bought cheaper products from China. How was our wages didn't keep up? Like, how are we doing this? But I think this is what has gotten us to the hole that we're in today. So more recently have shown some recovery, particularly in 2014 to 2019 and post 2020 in certain sectors, right? Driven by low unemployment. However, as of 2024-2025 data, real wages for many workers remain below peaks from the early 1970s when adjusted for inflation, and overall growth since 1979 has been uneven and slow, around 17.5% of wages, while productivity grew over 3 times faster. So in the 21st century, wages have grown slower than other income sources, making the 2000s and 2010s an outlier in US economic history, right? Because you had tech booms, right? That Clinton and Obama and even George W. Bush benefited from, right? But those are the outliers because it didn't keep up equally, right? And Spud says exploitation of illegal immigrants just being happy to have a job and not demanding a fair wage contributed to this wage suppression. Also, not wanting to pay Black Americans a fair wage. Exactly. Because I'm like, how are we, how should I say it, foundational to this country, but we're still at the bottom of the wage uh, pyramid, so to speak? And I'm not saying that all Black Americans are at the bottom, but the majority of us are. And it doesn't make sense. It's like, how are we here the longest, more than everybody? But everybody that comes in, they just kind of step over us and they're given placement. Is that the point? It's really, it's a very interesting conversation. And thank you so much for bringing that up, Spud. But again, if you guys want to get more into this, because this one's a long one, on this wage stagnation, just let me know. And I will be posting this later on to share with you. Now, for the next one I wanted to get into SNAP. So I did get into this a little bit last week, but I just wanted to let you guys know again, there has been major fraud found with the SNAP program, right? And so the US government shutdown, which began October 1st, has lasted over 40 days. And as of November 11th, right, the shutdown disrupted SNAP funding. We all know that. So the key discoveries tied to the shutdown, the fraud discoveries, right? Apparently, there were deceased recipients. Benefits continue for people listed as dead in federal records due to lack of cross checks. So there's I guess, and I didn't know this. I always thought because the federal government was sending federal dollars, there was an auditing process, right? So if somebody died or moved or things were different, that's why you have these state workers that specifically work on the SNAP benefits program in each state, right? And the state hires those specific workers. So the state pays those people, the money flows through to the recipients, right? But the state has to manage it. But nobody was auditing this information. So dead people, there were 5,000 confirmed cases, up to 300,000 potential instances nationwide. Wow. Not good. And the USDA reviewed that. But here's my thing. Had the shutdown not gone on as long as it did, would we know about this? Now I know there's going to be fraud in everything. There's going to be abuse in everything. But nobody was manning the store on this, which is just mind-boggling to me because I'm like, now it's a thing. Like, welfare's been around for a while. So nobody was really manning the store on this. Everybody was just like, okay, trust and not verify. I'm just saying. Multiple overlapping payments, households or individuals receiving duplicate benefits. Okay, thousands of cases on that. Disqualified recipients, nearly 4,000 cases. Invalid Social Security numbers. Use of dummy or fake Social Security numbers indicating ineligible recipients, undocumented immigrants. And they kept telling us, no undocumented immigrants, they're not getting this. They found over 500,000 instances with just that, with invalid Social Security numbers. Those SNAP bars them explicitly. So how are they getting this? Because somebody's doing it. And I think that's what they needed those NGOs for. I'm telling you, a lot of those NGOs, I'm thinking they're going to be on the hook for that, but that's something we'll probably find out later. EBT card, trafficking, theft, illegal selling, or cloning of EBT cards for cash, non-food items, or other abuses surged 55% in recent years, right? So thousands of illegal uses, 17,000 plus transactions in one Cleveland bus alone. That's just in one city. Okay, 100,000 were, was recovered, $100,000 in just one city. So imagine that multiplied. This is where we get up to these billions of dollars, and a lot of it's fraud. Wow, 177,000 fraud reports just in the first quarter across 46 states. Yeah. And I guarantee you, the state workers, they know that this is going on. They know this has been going on. And some people, I don't know if people are going to go to prison or not. Behind it, they should. If you were contributing to this, you definitely should be going to prison, losing your job, losing your livelihood. Oh my God, yes, because you're part of the problem. You're part of the waste, fraud, and abuse. Don't be a part of this stuff. Eligibility fraud, underreported income, assets, or false claims includes identity theft or account takeovers. And that can happen in death. That could happen with just relatives or whatever. Just keeping up, saying the eligibility is the same, not having to show up for a physical appointment or verifying anything. Yeah. And those are 24% of the fraud cases, which is very high. And that contributed to $10.5 billion in improper payments. 11.7% of $90 billion total SNAP outlays. And that's for just 2023. And those are just for the ones that they know about. So just know that the fraud is going on and it's going to be taken care of. Thank goodness. Right? Now, with that, I want to give us a happy moment before we get into some more of our news. But this is about a free grocery store in Atlanta to actually help people that are in need.
Help feed a family for $0.00 just by sharing this video. Come with me to the Community Food Center located at 3500 Martin Luther King on the west side of Atlanta. Y'all, I love this place. It was set up just like a grocery store, y'all. And y'all know, with the food stamps being on the hot right now, we need places like this. And it's okay to need help. Do you understand me? They had a number of items, from canned goods to snacks to chicken to ground beef to bread. Y'all, they even had Similac for the babies. You understand me? Y'all, we need places like this. And if you need help, I want you to comment below food so that I can send you the direct link if you're in the Atlanta area. I'm going to be packaging up some things for the homeless and giving back to the community, because that's what it's about. I'm praying for you and your family during this time of despair. I'm praying that you keep your family covered in prayer, because only God can bring us through this. I know there are so many families struggling right now, but all you have to do is call on the name of God, and He is going to meet you exactly where you are. So, y'all, like I said, it's located at 3500 Martin Luther King Drive on the southwest side of Atlanta. Thank you so much to Tiffany, to Miss Wendy, to Alejandro, to TD, and to the security that was out front. And until then, guys, stay blessed, stay prayed up, and remember, God got you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah. And so just remember that there are stores out there like this. And if you have a store maybe in your state or city that you would like to share with us, please comment, on my page on X, on YouTube, or even Facebook, and let us know. Because a lot of times the people that do need the help are the people that are right in between. They make just too much to get SNAP, but they are not making enough to really feed their families well. And a lot of those um, foods that were in there, I call them staple foods. They are stretch food as well, like the pizza bagels. Especially if you have little ones, they definitely can help, right? With just dinners, lunches, quick snacks. It's filling, right? And some of those foods aren't always the best foods because they contain a lot of salt and a lot of sugar. So hopefully, they can get even better donations. And a lot of that food comes from donations from grocery stores, right? That have to remove those items from their store because they might be too close to the expiration date, right? So they have to remove them. But instead of throwing them away, they've come up with a free store. So this is something that we can do to continue to feed our communities. And I would much rather us, states and cities, be responsible, right, than having the SNAP program where it's taking our federal tax dollars and this abuse is happening, right? Where we can actually put that money into educating our babies and making sure people can read and write and get handwriting back in the schools. And so we have more of an educated society as opposed to what's happening right now. So it's a little bit twofold, you know. I do have my soapbox moments, but I'm definitely about making sure our babies are always educated and taken care of. Now that leads me to the next topic I wanted to get to. Now, yesterday I was in an after space and we were talking a little bit about members of Congress. So I wanted to start with the Congressional Black Caucus, and I really wanted to find out kind of their status. It's kind of like I know, but I really wanted to dig in a little deeper. So with Grok, I said, can you give me a list of the members of the Congressional Black Caucus and their open secrets link? So I have this. So this is something that I will be reposting with the show because, like I said, I got to get out here a little bit early. But I wanted to see. So it's giving me a complete list, and this is based on the most recent Congress that we have. It consists of 58 members. 53 are from the House of Representatives, including 2 non-voting delegates and 5 senators. All are Democrats. Yes, all of them. There's no Republicans, as far as I know. And I'm not sure if there are any independents, but they're all Democrats. Okay. So this is all formatted. So When I post this shared link, you guys will have this here. So you can see these are most of the Democrats in the Black Caucus. David Scott, he's actually the representative over my congressional district. He's my representative here. But yes, they are all Democrats. I was like, wow, okay. Ilhan Omar, interesting. She's Somali. She's not Black. She is not Black at all. But here she is, representing the cause of Black Americans. Why are you here? And I know a lot of people are like, why do you have a problem with that? Because she's not a Black American. This was supposed to be, I thought, for Black Americans. But most of the people in here, they're not Black Americans. They are melanated, but they are not Black Americans, right? There's Senator Warnock. He's another one from my state here in Georgia. And I said, and I really wanted to emphasize, like, what political party are these members associated with? It says all current members of the Congressional Black Caucus in the recent Congress for 2025 to 2027 are affiliated with the Democrat Party. Every voting member of the CBC, both in the House and Senate, is a Democrat. This has been the case for decades. The CBC has been an exclusively Democratic caucus since its founding in 1971. And I want to give a shout out to Brother Muko. He says, Grand Rising Care Unit, Grand Rising to you too. And it Only Facts and Truths, thank you for joining us and reposting the stream. And Spud says, bullet point, spot on. Yeah, it says, there has never been a Republican voting member of the Congressional Black Caucus, although a small number of Black Republicans have served in Congress during that time. Tim Scott, Mia Love, Ellen West, Will Hurd, Byron Donalds, Burgess Owens, Wesley Hunt, John James, etc. None of them joined or were invited. Now, I think Byron Donalds, I think he tried and they just were like, they gave him the Heisman and they were like, no, we don't want you here. I was like, okay, so what was your argument? Because you can't use you're not Black argument because you got Ilhan Omar in there. She's definitely a Somali. She is not a Black American. So I don't even know what that's about. I don't even understand it. So we've got to demand that the Congressional Black Caucus, if this is who you are, if this is who you're going to be, then only people that are foundational to this country that have a tie, lineage based, back to the soil can be a part of the Black Caucus or dissolve it because it does not represent Black Americans, period. It represents foreigners. Okay? It does. So the two non-voting delegate members, Eleanor Holmes Norton of DC and Stacey Placid of the U.S. Virgin Islands, are also Democrats and formally affiliated with the Democratic Party, even though their positions are officially nonpartisan. So they're supposed to be nonpartisan, but they're still rolling with the Democrats. It's very interesting to me. So to directly answer your question, 100% of the current Congressional Black Caucus members are Democrats. So this is more about party than it is about helping anybody. This is still a party situation because not every Black American is Democrat. So you're not even doing what you're supposed to do. You're not even representing everyone. It's a whole lie. I would rather it be the Democratic Caucus. That's what you need to call it because that's what it is. It's a Congressional Democratic Caucus. It's the CDC. If we're going to use some, actual acronyms, it is not the CBC that you claim. So I said, are any of these members? Oh yeah, that was a different question that I had. I was on a tangent about John Podesta, But it's interestingly enough, because you'll hear a little bit about John Podesta. He was a counselor to Barack Obama, and he worked with the Clintons as well. Not the most savory person, allegedly. We'll just say allegedly. But I guess Cory Booker has strong ties to him. Raphael Warnock joined Podesta and White House officials to announce a $2.5 billion solar investments, creating 2,500 jobs in Georgia, tied to the Inflation Reduction Act, which Warnock helped pass. And there's no personal endorsements noted, but this is a part of that $2.5 billion thing with Stacey Abrams. It was a whole EPA situation. Yeah. And they clawed that back, by the way. Yeah, Trump got in here and shut that whole situation down. Indirect ties to Hakeem Jeffries, but there's no other specific individuals, right? And like I said, I was looking up John Podesta only because I was listening to Alex Jones, and I was like, okay, is there any correlation with certain people that they're working with or not working with? And I just wanted to know. It was one of those things, inquiring minds wanted to know. And I just wanted to see what was really going on with the Black Caucus. Because again, why are you calling yourself the Congressional Black Caucus and you're not representing everyone? You should be representing independents, libertarians, Republicans, Democrats, everyone. This is supposed to be nonpartisan if you're going to make it about Black people. Right? Which a Negro ethnically is what it's supposed to be representing, but the people that put it together were not foundational to this country. So that's probably why it is the way it is. Now, I'm going to put the question to the audience. Is this something we should fight for to keep in place and overtake it, right, from the inside out and just kind of, send people about their business and say, why are you even here? You don't represent us. You don't represent everyone. Why are you even calling yourself the Congressional Black Caucus? You're disgusting, representing one party, right? Because even if it was just all Republican, I would find it disgusting. You're supposed to represent everybody. Do we dissolve it and start something else? Or do we try to infiltrate it and turn it around? So I'll let you guys answer that question. Now, the next thing I wanted to get into is this is something I came across last week, and this is about Newsom. So let's see, this was on the 12th. So Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff was just arrested by the FBI and charged with bank fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to defraud the United States, which includes funneling campaign money for personal use. So we'll see where this goes, right? Because this was issued. So apparently, the Justice Department, they are doing something, right? Because according to their documents, as it says down here, between February 2022 and September 2024, Williamson conspired with others to divert approximately $225,000 in funds from a dormant political campaign to an associate's personal use. Collectively, they funneled the money through various businesses, entities, and disguised it as pay for what was, in reality, a no-show job. Right? So they basically probably created an entity, said, okay, here's wages, but nothing was ever done. It's kind of like a pass-through account, right? So the indictment also alleges that Williamson conspired with a business associate to create false, backdated contracts after receiving a civil subpoena in January 2024 from the U.S. Attorney's Office regarding Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loans, remember those, made to Williamson's business. So a lot of people are getting caught up in that PPP situation. That's probably what some of this is going back to. And this is the second part of it. It says, I'm just going to the very end of it. It says, if convicted, Williamson faces a maximum, let's say, a maximum statutory penalty of 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine for each count of bank fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit bank fraud and wire fraud up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine for each count of conspiracy to obstruct and making false statements, and up to 3 years in prison for a $100,000 fine for each count of subscribing to a false tax return. Any sentence, however, would be determined at the discretion of the court after consideration of any applicable statutory factors and the federal sentencing guidelines, which take into account number of variables. The charges are only allegations. The defendant is presumed innocent unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The reason why this is important is because this is still tied to Gavin Newsom. He's the former chief of staff, but again, were there other dealings or goings on, with Newsom? And I think this is going to be a sticky point for him. As we know, he wants to run for president of the United States. And so this is going to be a sticky point. If you're doing this stuff at the state level, what are you going to do at the federal level? Right. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Donald Trump, he can't be trusted, or nobody can be trusted. Really? We can't give people carte blanche trust. Stop that. This business. Get your emotions and your feelings out of it. But I'm just saying, how much will this affect him? Because where was he when this stuff was going on? And did he know anything about it? Those are going to be the questions that do come up in conversations. So that's all I'm saying as far as Newsom's concerned. Now let's get into some of our news from all sides. So apparently Trump cuts tariffs for over 100 grocery items. Now, is this going to, oh my goodness, my server's down? Okay, so apparently we're not looking at that. Oh my goodness, this whole cloud thing. So we're just going to short script this. So the White House published an executive order on Friday that cut tariffs for a variety of grocery items, including coffees, beef, teas, fruits, and spices. Okay. So we've heard a lot about the tariffs, the penalties, the taxes. We're trying to collect money from these other countries that we weren't even messing with before, some of them, right, to level the playing field and making sure that we're bringing in money and we're not losing any money, which I appreciate. But in some of that, it's raised prices for us in certain areas. So I'm like, okay, if you're cutting tariffs so it'll lower the grocery items, okay, great. Do what you need to do. Again, this is business. This is not about our feelings. And that's where I need people to get out of. Like, I had played that short video before between the alderman and the investment manager for the city in Chicago. It's like, why are you in your feelings about this when this really should be about the people of Chicago? But you've decided to unilaterally say everybody feels the way I feel, so I'm going to make this decision. Do you know how crazy that is? It's not your city. It belongs to the people. So if the people actually want you to invest, are you going against the people that have put you in that position? Like, individuals like that, you shouldn't be serving in political office ever. You're a dangerous person. And those are the people we need to make sure get up out of there. And that's why, with the Congressional Black Caucus, we will start going back over those individuals. And that's something I'm going to try to, just take a group of them every week on Tell It All Tuesday. And if I have to break it down to like maybe 4 or 5, and we go through their open secrets to see if these are people we should be putting in office or people we should be taking out of office, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start with the Congressional Black Caucus, because again, a lot of them are not Black Americans. Okay. And a lot of them don't even need to be in there because they are not servicing people as a whole. They're only servicing their party. So wow, former Bangladesh Prime Minister sentenced to death over involvement in protest crackdown. Interesting. I wonder where that's from, because that's okay. Let's see if my stuff is still down. Yes, server's still down. Ex-Bangladesh leader sentenced to death over brutal protest crackdown. And, we have to, get more into that story to find out like what's happened because, people here, even in the United States, and I find it very strange, they're like, okay, we can throw things at people, and that's not protesting peacefully, by the way. And what do you even want? I see protests everywhere, but I'm like, what is it do you want? Like, what legislation are you trying to get changed? What are you actually trying to get done with your protest? And in my opinion, some of the protests have been going on. I was like, we don't want ICE here. Okay, so you're okay with people committing fraud and criminal activity in your city. And what I say by that, the fraud part is they've already been told they have to leave here because they have deportation orders, and you're okay with them breaking the law. But you are protesting the people that are trying to remove them. You're weird. You do not care about rule of law anywhere, but you're the first person to call the police if something happens at your house. You're weird. It's just a strange range of emotions. And here, ICE raids in Charlotte lead to protests and arrests. Yeah, they're still doing this stuff. Still doing it. So here's a title here from Newsweek. Charlotte churchgoers flee border patrol raid. We thought church was safe. Stop that. Stop that. Stop bringing the church into this. Stop bringing. People are not okay with illegal activity. I'm just going to say it straight up. Not okay with it. You need to stop bringing your degenerate behavior, because it is degenerate behavior, to say that criminals are good, okay? And you're protecting criminal behavior. That's not good. It's not proper, okay? We have laws. We are a nation of laws, lots of laws. The problem is when people decide carte blanche to not uphold them. And then they put everybody at risk. And then they want to cry foul. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Well, because you don't want to follow the law. You put all of us at risk. And we're all out here at risk. And you're still pressing for illegal activity. It's very strange to me. But then again, this is part of the end times, right? We were told biblically, this is what will happen. There are going to be people that call evil good and good evil in the last days. We're here. So when I see it happening, I'm not shocked or surprised. It just boggles my mind. Like, wow, there are really people out here believing it's okay to, support criminal activity. And then they want you to be a part of it too. It's like, no, stop that. I'm not doing that. Not doing that. No, absolutely not. Here's another headline. Transgender Air Force members sue the Trump administration over denied pensions. You shouldn't have been in the Air Force in the first place. And you should get a dishonorable discharge. Stop that. Stop it. If you want to mess with your person after you retire, after you get your pension, fine. But while you're in there, you are violating the contract, because if you came in as a man and you're trying to leave as a woman, that's not going to work. Yeah, your pension should be denied. Absolutely. Now, I know a lot of people, but they served the country. Again, if you went in there as a man, you need to leave as a man. And you can do whatever you want to do after you get your pension and retire. After you're done. Okay? That's what you want to do. But when you decide to change, your anatomy, and you want to just make it known that your anatomy has changed, yeah, you're going to be denied your stuff, because you're no longer the person that you were in that contract. This is contractual, period. And it better be shot down, because there are men and women, and that's it. And if somebody decides to mutilate themselves to be happy, that's on them. But you're going to lose certain benefits. You're just going to lose them. And if you lose your pension, I'm okay with that. Because guess what? My tax dollars do pay for it. And I'm okay with you losing it. Let's say that straight up. Yes, you serve this country. And if you're a man serving this country, you need to keep that status. Okay? You keep your status as a man. Now, if you decide that, you want to play as a woman, okay, fine. But don't go around that, I'm going to change this and change that, because the minute you try to change everything, I am a female, I'm no longer a male. Yeah, you're going to lose your pension. You lose the whole thing. Stop it. Get help, because you're a man and you will never be a woman, or you're a woman and you will never be a man. It is what it is. Mutilating yourself to be happy is not the way to go. You need to stop, because we're not going to accept this. I'm not accepting it, maybe personally. Then there are people in my life that are a part of the LGBTQ movement. There are people in my life that are, they claim to be transgender. I see that person as who they are, and they are not what they believe they are. And I respectfully call them by their first name. I will not, play the gender game with them. I pray for them all the time that they come out of that mental illness, because that's what it is. It truly, truly is, and it's taking over our country, and we have to put a foot down and say no more. You're not doing that here. You can find a whole nother country to do that in, but not here. It was a slippery slope, unfortunately, with Obama. And when we got the Defense of Marriage Act and all of these privileges were given to the LGBTQ community, and our country has been downhill ever since. It needs to stop. We need to put our foot down and say no more. It's infested our children, and it's a cancer that needs to stop. It definitely needs to stop. And I wanted to share something with you guys before I take off out of here. And this is an album that I actually produced a few months ago, back in September. And I just wanted to share a little bit of it with you. So I bow low, your love consumes. Yes, and that is Divine Echo Collective. That is my AI group. And the album is called Heaven Touch Earth. And I will leave a link so you can check them out on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Vizier, and iTunes. And I also have a YouTube channel. I'm still, trying to upload content to it so people can listen to it and hear it. And I also have a TikTok channel where I am still updating content. Yeah, I try to stay pretty busy in this space, but I definitely wanted to develop just other avenues and revenue streams, for myself, but then things that can also inspire people. So definitely check out Divine Echo Collective. And it was, done and produced by me and registered and all that good stuff. So everything is legit. Put my paralegal skills to work. So check it out, Divine Echo Collective. And again, I will leave the link for this in the repost of the stream. So I just want to thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News for Tell It All Tuesday. I hope I gave you guys enough content to really stay informed. There's so much more going on. We've got things going on in Texas with Islam, right? And I don't want to call it a takeover. Okay, I won't call it a takeover, but I will say it is very strong. And let me just share that with you actually before I get out of here. As you can see, let me just click on that and make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So breaking news, amid growing alarm that nearly 50 new mosques have opened in Texas over the past 24 months, it has now been revealed that the Republican-controlled Texas state government has funneled $13 million in public funds to Islamic organizations. So as much as we hear Republicans kind of bucking this whole thing and pushing against it, like, no, no, no. Yeah, 13 million. Okay. That's happening right now. And so it's stuff like this that I'm trying to bring you guys and keep you up to date on, especially when we do Tell It All Tuesday. So again, thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we will be back tomorrow with Women in Wellness Wednesday, and that will be open mic. So remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.